Some years ago, I knew a little girl, and she was sold when she was a baby. And she was sold to a prostitute. I met her mother later, and her mother said, well, it was only $100. I didn't really sell her, but I couldn't afford to keep her because my husband had left me. So she sold her to a prostitute in the walled city, an old one. And the old ones buy children, said that when they grow up, they can live off them. And she was kind to her. Yes, they are. And she loved her. Yes, they do. But when this girl, her name was Maria, when she was 14, she decided she didn't want to sleep with the men that the old woman would introduce to her. She wanted to choose for herself. So she ran away, and I lost her. And I was very worried about how to find her. And so one day, I went down to a main street in Kowloon, and I began to pray. And I said, God, would you show me where she is? Because there's 200 or 300 bars she could be in. And I thought God said, go straight on. So I walked straight on. And then I came to a main road. And then I thought he said, don't turn left or right. So I crossed the road. And then I came to a building. And I looked up. And it was one of these buildings with, they've blacked out the windows. They black out the windows in the places called ballrooms or music halls. They're brothels. And at this point, I'm sorry to say, I said, well, I'm not playing spiritual detectives anymore, and left. And later on, I had a dream that she was in a room with many mirrors on the ceiling and so on. Some months later, she called me, and she said, please come and see me quickly. And I took a walled city boy with me, and I found her in a room just like the one I dreamt of. And she had been in the building I'd not gone into. And she told me that she was working in this music hall, and after work she was so bored that she gambled, and that she owed a lot of money. And someone will always lend to these girls. They're called loan sharks. But they lend expecting 200% interest every other day, so that the girls cannot pay back. It's impossible. They easily get the loan, and then they're in prison to this loan. They own thousands of dollars so quick. And she said, please will you lend me $1,000? Because if I have $1,000, I can pay it back to this loan shark. His name is Michael. I don't have to go and be a snake. And a snake is an involuntary prostitute. That means she's owned by Michael for a year. And she sleeps with all the men he introduced, and he gets all the money. So she said, please will you lend me $1,000? And I said, I don't have 100. We're talking about Hong Kong dollars. That's much less than American dollars. I don't have 100. And then I said, well, let's pray. So me and the other brother who was with me, we prayed. And I was thinking while we were praying, I only have one thing of any value. And that's my musical instrument, which is called an oboe. And if you know anything about oboes, they're very unique. Your own instrument is your own instrument, and there's not one like it. That was the only thing I had of value. While I was thinking about this, the brother I brought with me had a prophecy. By the way, what the Chinese brothers from Hong Kong were speaking just now, were prophecies, words from God. And the prophecy went something like this. If Jesus Christ laid down his life for you, what's an oboe? I said, okay, pax. So I said to her, okay, I'll give you the money on 2 conditions. One, you let me hand it over myself. 2, I would like you to consider a new life. If you would like a new life, I'll find a place for you to stay. Just you consider this. Anyway, I got the money, and the next day we sat at a restaurant waiting for Michael to appear, but he didn't appear. He sent 2 men in a car, and they came over to the table, picked up the brown envelope, and walked off. And I was very disappointed. This all went so quick. So I called them back, and I said, no, wait a minute. And they said, what do you want? And I said, I want to speak to your leader. And they said, well, what about? And I said, well, I have a very important message for him. And they said, well, you can tell us. And I said, no, I can't. I have to tell him in person. So they went to telephone him, and they came back, and they looked very surprised. They said, he'll see you. And they took me to a nightclub on the 21st floor of a building, which you have to open with a 2 or 3 feet gold key. And when we got inside, the carpets were all nearly a foot thick, and the whole place was decorated with teddy bears. It was not nice. Upstairs there were cages, gold cages, where the girls who had been sold were kept. And the men looked at them and then rang from the bar downstairs for whichever one they wanted. And this was where Maria would go. And eventually Michael came over to me, and he's this big guy, and he's full of self-confidence. And he said, I suppose you think you've been very noble. Well, I help poor people too. I help mothers find their missing children. Well, of course he knew where they were. And he said, I expect you think you're very noble, paying the money for this girl, but you're a fool. Because she won't change. She'll just do the same thing again. She'll waste it. And I said to him, it doesn't matter if she wastes it or not. It doesn't matter if she changes or not. You see, Jesus paid for my life with his life. He died for me, and he didn't wait until I changed before he did that. He loved me so much, he would have done that anyway. I would rather pay for her and give her the opportunity of freedom. I would rather do that than shut up my heart and see her die. And he opened his mouth to reply. And he was struck dumb. I mean literally struck dumb. Nothing would come out. And the tears rolled down his cheeks. He was dumb for about 10 minutes. And then he said, I have nothing more to say. Did she change? You want to know the end of the story? No, she didn't. That's the point of the story. She was worth it. We don't pay for those who we think are worth it. He thought I was worth it when he died on a cross. That's the point of the story.